And now, as far as like language, can I talk like a grown up, or do we have little kids watching, or
Oh no, we can say whatever the fuck we want.
fucking A?
All right, let's do it.
And I got my Joan Jett shirt on, too, brother.
Love it. So we're already rolling, so I'm just going to say thanks for being here, man. I appreciate this. This is going to be fun.
Thanks for having me on, Robbie. Yeah, I'm looking forward to it.
I want to jump right in because I'm super interested in stuff like this, and I need to know as much as I can know. So, where did your interest in the paranormal start?
Oh, well, from the beginning, I guess it actually really started when I was a little boy, growing up out on Long Island. My grandmother moved in with my family before I was even born. So she was a little Irish grandma, and she immigrated to United States, and her sister immigrated to Scotland. So grandma used to tell me stories about the Loch Ness Monster. So I was crazy about the Loch Ness Monster growing up. And, whenever I would go get the Loch Ness Monster books, they were in the same aisle at the library as the ghost books. So that's sort of how I got into it. And, once I got a little bit older, I got more interested in sports and girls, and I kind of put it on the back burner for a long while. And came into the city, and it was always something that I had in the back of my mind, an interest. I'd watch the shows and the movies, and I moved to the city to be an actor, and things worked out for me right from the jump. So I had a little scratch, and I was able to go up and down. I'm also a Civil War buff, so I used to go up and down the East Coast to all the battlefields, and for a weekend or so, and every battlefield has a haunted bed and breakfast. So I would stay at the haunted bed and breakfast. And in Gettysburg, I met a team of paranormal investigators, and I was talking to them, and they were totally cool. They were investigating the bed and breakfast I was staying at, a place called the Farnsworth House. And they were cool. One guy was a dentist, another guy was an attorney, and one was a minister, and they were just cool guys. And when I got back to the city, I started looking for some people that were doing this, and there was nobody. This was before all the ghost shows came out, and Ghost Hunters and the like, and I ran into a guy named Dom, and we just started investigating, and that was 20 years ago. So
wow.
Here I am hanging with you, Robby Vegas.
Yeah. Okay, so before I keep going with the paranormal questions, because I'm already jotting stuff down here like crazy, I did want to touch on your acting too. So you said you went to become an actor, and obviously you succeeded. So when did you get bit by the acting bug? Because clearly the paranormal stuff came first.
Right. Well, I in high school, I was not interested in high school. I did kind of poorly in high school, and my English teacher was the only class I did well in. My English teacher, I got to give a shout out to Mr. Bud. He was also the theater director in the high school. So he had asked me and if I could get some of the football players or the cheerleaders to be in a show. It was Fiddler on the Roof. And I said, yeah, sure. I needed the extra credits for my college applications, and walked out on stage opening night and just felt all that energy coming at me from the audience. And I was like, wow, this is better than any touchdown I ever got or anything like that. And from that moment, I remember the exact moment of walking on stage and feeling that energy. I said, well, I gotta do this. This is cool. So
wow.
Yeah. And did community theater and ended up at the American Academy of Dramatic Arts here in New York City, and did graduated from there and was asked to be a member of their public company, and won the big award and all that. So my career as an actor started there, really, in New York City, and did commercials and lots and lots and lots of theater, and just had a ball. It's how I made my way for a long time here in New York.
So what did you consider your first big break in acting?
It was that first step on the stage. I don't believe really in big breaks. People have, obviously I didn't become a rich and famous A-list celebrity, but but a couple of my friends have, and they would agree that there's no such thing as a big break. There's a bunch of little breaks, and but my first little break was walking on that stage. That changed my life.
Wow, that's awesome.
Yeah.
So, and then you find your success in acting, and then you're getting into the paranormal, back into it, I should say, because of the Civil War and all that,
Right.
all that stuff. So when do you begin doing your own investigations?
I've been unknowingly, I've been doing investigations my whole life, even when I was a little kid, and growing up, we would, I worked at a movie theater. So I asked the managers if I could stay at night and do the movie theater, investigate the movie theater and see if there's any ghosts. I didn't know what the hell I was doing, but, or get a, case of beer with some friends and have a seance or something and try and scare the girls so they'd make out with us, and all like the typical stuff. But I guess seriously, like proper investigations, it was after I'd moved to the city, and I was lucky enough to meet some like-minded people, and then I got to meet a gentleman named Lloyd Auerbach, and he became my mentor. He's a parapsychologist, and learned how to do a proper investigation, and so that was a little over 20 years ago in the city where I can say I was doing a legit paranormal investigations.
Now, we talked very quickly about Loch Ness and things like that, which is kind of what kicked all this off for you, which is cryptozoology. So do you still have an interest in that as well, or are we sticking with hauntings?
I've been sticking with like parapsychology, and which is the study of three things with a bunch of sub subjects under them. Mm-hmm. But primarily it is ESP, poltergeist effect or recurring spontaneous psychokinesis, and survivalism, which is the sexy part of parapsychology, and that is the study of does consciousness survive bodily death? And if it does, are you able to communicate, and can it interact with the physical world? Mm-hmm. So, yeah, I mean, I'm sorry, what was the first part of that question? I kind of went off on a.
I was just.
Am I still into like cryptozoology?
Yes.
Not really. I love that stuff. I respect that stuff, but I think it's best to just like pick a lane and stay in it. Mm-hmm. So while I do read those books, and I have a lot of friends that are studying cryptozoology and Bigfoot explorers, and a couple of Loch Ness people, so I do kind of have my big toe into that pool of research, but primarily I'm a consciousness studier and stick with the ghost stuff.
Okay. Now I could be off with this because I know a little bit about this stuff, but obviously not as much as you. But so what you're describing to me, almost to me, I'm thinking that you're talking like you're looking for a difference in a residual or intelligent haunting. Is that kind of
sure?
Okay.
Like residual and intelligent. Those in parapsychology, it's referred to as apparitional, which the cool kids on TV called intelligent haunting, but it's in the science of parapsychology is called apparitional hauntings, mm-hmm. and a residual haunting is called a place memory haunting. So yeah, you run into and poltergeist effect as well. You run into sometimes at a location all three. So
really,
yeah. I was at a place out in California and with Lloyd actually, and this house, it had, I believe, a lot of place memory or residual types of hauntings, mm-hmm. and definitely some apparitional and some intelligent type of hauntings. We had psychic mediums there who were having conversations with the people, and the family that was there, they were getting really freaked out by what was going on, and I think that was causing a lot of the poltergeist effect. Poltergeist, mm-hmm. or recurring spontaneous psychokinesis, that has nothing to do with spirits. That is from a living agent. They call it a living agent, who may be under some stress or conflict that they're not able to express outwardly. It all goes internally, and it can affect electronics, electricity, and that kind of stuff. There's a lot of science that is going into studying that, because can somebody under an enormous amount of stress, can that affect electronics? And just imagine, in a tank or flying a fighter jet, that kind of stress, and can that affect the electronics of whatever vehicle that they're working in? So
wow.
Yeah.
That's incredible.
Yeah, it's amazing. It's amazing.
For anybody listening to this, which I can't imagine they wouldn't be into this stuff because my show has a lot of this stuff in it, but for anybody listening to this,
everybody's into this stuff.
If you don't know what like a residual haunting would be, just a quick kind of description. The way I think of it is, it's the same pattern over and over and over again, as like you said. What did you say? It was a memory?
Mm-hmm. A place memory, yeah.
So like if a spirit is walking through a wall, maybe there was a door there once upon a time. And
exactly. And you're not actually even dealing with a spirit at that point. You're just dealing with the leftover. You're dealing with energy that's been absorbed at that location somehow. When we're watching a TV and we see Robby Vegas walk across the stage, we're not seeing Robby Vegas. We're seeing Robby Vegas, in the past.
Yeah.
So a residual or a place memory type of haunting is just energy that has been absorbed by a location, or even an object, and replays. People say it's like a film strip, but nobody knows what film strips are anymore. But it just replays over and over, and we don't know what the trigger is. It has to be the right person in the right state of mind to perceive this. And, because we're not seeing this with our eyes, we're seeing this, it's a psychic phenomena. It's a psychic experience.
I see.
So yeah, it's just something. It doesn't have to be, hundreds of years ago. It can be months ago. It just depends on the person that is at that particular location and kind of the way their brain is tuned, and that's how they perceive it. They're not seeing it; they're perceiving it. So yeah, you're correct. If we're watching what looks like a person walking, across a landing in a house, and they walk right through a door, yeah, that's probably the path that they were used to taking and that they normally took, but there wasn't a door there at the time. So so yeah, you're 100% correct in that regard.
So what would you say for you personally was some of the most compelling evidence you've come across for an intelligent haunting?
Excuse me. Great. An intelligent haunting. I have, are you familiar with EVP, electronic voice phenomena? Okay.
Yes.
So that is the recording of anomalous voices, which aren't heard at the time of the recording, but they're heard upon playback and of the recorder. So so I have gotten some pretty amazing examples of EVP from this house I've been investigating for 19 years this month, where we'll ask a question. The head of the household is Mr. Treadwell. Mr. Treadwell, did you know how to play the piano? And we got a response which we didn't hear at the time. We only heard it when I was listening to the recording afterward. We do get a response in what sounds like a male voice that says, "I strike the keys in succession," and then it sort of fades out. He says something after that, but we can't make it out. Or, a girl looking in a mirror and asking Mrs. Treadwell, "Mrs. Treadwell, do you think I'm pretty?" And we got a female voice respond, "Pleasant enough," which is odd because this girl was hot. And but even that verbiage seems sort of 19th century, and I kind of get that vibe from the clip. And then some other stuff with psychic mediums, which I was never a psychic guy or a medium guy. I'm like a 3XL, and in New York City, there's more psychos than psychics out there. I think I've met them all too, but I met two that changed my mind, and the information that they were able to provide, it changed my whole theory on paranormal investigations, and actually saved me a lot of money on equipment. But yeah, so I would say those two things have been the most significant for me, and that have just blown my mind. When you ask a question to an empty room, and you listen to your recorder hours, days later, and you get a response that answers your question. It's it's just crazy. It blows your mind. So that kind of stuff really just every time it happens, and it doesn't necessarily happen often, but every time it does, it just I almost take it for granted now because like, oh yeah, I caught an EVP, but I might have caught somebody that has passed away, might have caught them talking to me. So yeah, that kind of stuff just blows my mind.
Just processing that too is like got to be kind of like a mind-blowing thing. Like you could be not necessarily having a conversation, but in a way you are kind of having a conversation with somebody who's passed on. I mean, they're
Yeah,
answering intelligently.
yeah, you're interacting with them, and excuse me, I think when people think of ghosts or spirits or apparitions, whatever you want to call them, they forget that they're people. They're people without the meat bag that they've carried around their whole life, but they're people. So you interact with them as a person, and you go into an investigation wanting to interact with people. So, like, if I go on an investigation with somebody and they go, "Can you show me a sign of your presence?" Who would want to respond to that? I like to go in, be friendly, be happy, have a good time, crack a couple jokes, and because I have more luck doing that because I think that that's attractive for somebody to interact with,
Mm-hmm.
and yeah, but it blows my mind, and to me that's the scariest part of an investigation is listening to the audio because it's usually a few days later. I'm laying in my bed in the middle of the night. I got my headphones on, and I keep expecting to hear Sturges. I'm going to get you, but it never happens. But for me, that's the scariest. It's almost like the anticipation of something you don't know what's going to happen, but it's the anticipation of it happening, which really kind of, gets my anxiety up in a good way.
Yeah. Actually, funny story for you is I caught an EVP once on this podcast.
Oh, really?
Yes.
Yeah, that happens more times than you would think. Where I'll get somebody, I was leaving a message for somebody on their voicemail from a haunted location, and they got an EVP on the message I left them.
Oh wow. Well,
Yeah.
this was weird because like I caught one before, but we were talking about like Ouija boards and stuff like that, so I understood. But the one that I caught that was really crystal clear, we were talking about Kiss, and there was 4 of us, and
Kids or Kiss,
Kiss,
like the rock band.
yeah.
Right on.
Yeah, so we're doing this whole podcast about Kiss and drafting our favorite Kiss songs. There was 4 or 5 of us, I can't remember. And while my buddy Mike was talking, who's the drummer for Wednesday 13, a voice comes out of nowhere and just goes, "Shut up." And none of us heard it. Nobody knows where it came from, whose house it was at. And then I was doing the editing and I heard something and I was like, "Oh, that's weird." And then once I released it, it came crystal clear. So I snipped it and I sent it to him and I was like, "Did you catch this?" And it really freaked him out. He's like, "Something's telling me not to talk."
Yeah, it's funny. I have got EVP from this house I've been investigating for all these years. I usually go in at 3 or 4 recorders with people that are on the fellow investigators, and we've caught EVP on just one recorder when all the recorders are running at the same time.
Really?
Yeah.
I
never get EVP on a recorder that I'm holding, so I never bother holding them anymore. I've never caught an EVP, and I don't know if that's just me being sort of a willing skeptic. But yeah, I just hand the recorders to other people and let them do their thing. I think the Merchant's House, I think the people, the spirits, the Treadwell family, getting kind of tired of me going there and asking these silly questions.
Well, in your, in all the places that you go, what do you find to be like the most haunted locations? Are we talking like, are they usually battlefields, hospitals, houses? Like, is there one that's more haunted than the next, or is it just kind of like a luck of the draw?
Yeah, it's for me, in my experience, it's been a luck of the draw. I've gone to places where people have said, "Dan, you've got to go here. This place is just busting with hauntings and it's crazy." And you go in and nothing goes on. At the Merchant's House, which I'll talk about often because I spend so much time there investigating. I've gone 2 or 3 years without catching anything at the Merchant's House. And then you'll get something. You go in the next week, you'll get something else, and you'll get a ton of stuff.
Mhm.
So I keep a gigantic database of dates, times, of EVP, who was there, what the temperature was, what time of year, was it hot, was it cold, what was
Mhm.
the barometric pressure. I try and keep a list of all of that to see if I can find any kind of patterns,
Mm.
and see if, okay, if it's this time of year around this time, and maybe that's a good time to go, and I'll go and get skunked. So it's been kind of random for me.
Gotcha. Now, you mentioned the merchant's house a couple times now, so let's focus on that for a second.
Sure.
So, you've been investigating this house for 3 years, you said?
Oh, no, 19.
Oh, 19 years. So now, 19 years of investigating the same house. Why?
Well, it's been, the merchant's house. I'll give you a little backstory on the merchant's house. It was built in 1832. The Treadwell family, Mr. Treadwell, his name was Seabury Treadwell. He had a wife. He had 7 kids at the time. They bought the house for him to retire into. It's down on the Lower East Side, New York City, and which was uptown back then. But the family moved in 1835, and Gertrude, the last family member and the only immediate family member to be born in the house, she was born in 1840. Now, she lived in the house her entire life. She was 93, 94 when she passed away. She passed away in 1933. So when she passed away, they shut the doors, they locked them, and the house was almost torn down. But a distant family member bought the house, opened it up in 1936 as a museum of 19th century living.
Hmm.
So only one family lived there. Everything that's in the house today, right now, was original to the house. So the couches, the chairs, the bed sheets, the beds, those are what the family slept on in the 1830s, 1840s, 50s. That's what they
Wow.
slept on, and they're still there.
Wow.
Yeah, so it's as close as to a controlled environment as a paranormal investigator could get.
Hmm.
We know everybody that lived in the house. We know their histories. We've got the coolest thing is, when construction workers were uh, fitting the house or bringing the house up to code for back then, putting electricity in, plumbing, so they could open it up to the public. They were having experiences, and they
Hmm.
began writing them down. And they would write down, saw a woman in a brown dress walk down the stairs into the kitchen, look out the window, and drink a cup of tea from
Wow.
1936. And then, in 2024, we had somebody visit the museum and said, yeah, I saw a woman in a brown dress. She was walking down the stairs. She went into the kitchen. I went in to look at her, and she was drinking a cup of tea looking out the window. So people
Wow.
separated by almost a century are having the same experience and describing the same things. That would be a great example of a placed memory or a residual type of haunting.
I was just going to say that actually. Now, you triggered another thought for me because you're talking about how like historic this place is.
Yeah.
Um, and I would assume that you go to a lot of historic places. So one place that I'm curious about, have you ever checked out the Winchester Mystery House?
No, I haven't. That's out in California, correct?
Yeah, I think
Yeah, yeah. I
San
haven't been
Jose,
out.
maybe.
Yeah, I haven't been out there. Most of my investigations have been, I have to stay close to home, close to work, close to my family. Have been on the East Coast,
Okay.
but I was out shooting something for a television show, so that's the reason I was out in California for that particular investigation. But no,
Mm.
I haven't been to the Winchester House, but a lot of people have told me about it and have had a really great time investigating there.
Yeah, that's just something that always stands out to me. I'm reading a book right now called Historic Haunted America, and it's just filled
Mhm.
with all the big historic hauntings and things
Right.
like that. So it was just fresh in my mind. But while we're on this, you know, topic of history and things like that, you're also involved with the Travel Channel's Paranormal Caught on Camera.
Yeah.
So how did that come about?
It's funny, man. About maybe 2019, 2018, 19. I just got a random email, and I get them all the time. Hey, we're shooting something. We want to shoot. Would you be part of this? A lot of the news channels here in New York, and some random shows. So I was like, yeah. I'll go shoot something. They wanted to give you a couple of bucks, and it's cool if your mom sees you on TV. So I said, yeah, sure. And for whatever reason, that show, there are so many people watch that show. It's crazy.
Yeah.
But it's just stuck around, and the production company is cool. The crew is great. So I've been on since right now we're in the middle of shooting season 9, and I've been on since the first episode. So it's been a good little run for that show.
Do you have a specific video that you really looked at and you were like, this is incredible?
Yeah. There are 2 videos over the course of the 8 or 9 seasons. I've forgotten at this point. One is a video of it was taken in the Philippines, I believe, and a woman was doing laundry, doing her things she needs to do around the house, and she gave her cell phone to her son and said, "Here, go play with this and get out of my hair." So he was making little videos and selfies. He was a kid, like maybe 6, 7 years old.
Mm-hmm.
And when he went to bed that night, his mom was looking over the videos he took, and they were cute, and he was laughing. But there was one video where you see an old woman lean in next to him, and she didn't look she didn't look alive, and it was his grandmother. And it was this woman's mom, and it turns out the video was recorded on Mother's Day.
Wow.
The little boy had no idea. He didn't remember her being there, but there she was, and so that one has really stuck out with me. And then just recently, I think last season or the season before, there was a gentleman. He was in the woods in Georgia. And he wasn't a paranormal investigator. He was, I guess you could call him an urban explorer. But his hobby was going to visit these old kind of dilapidated houses, and he researches the history on them, and that's what he's into, and he's pointing out, look at the chimney, and this is how it's from this part of time, just the way the stones are and how they built it. He kind of gauge when the house was built. And at one point, he was with some dude who knew where the house, maybe he was the owner of the house. And this house is empty. It's unlivable. You can't live in it. It's just like a broken down old house in the middle of the woods. Mm-hmm. And so the gentleman taking the video was underneath in like the crawl space of the house. And he's pointing out, look at these joints, see how wide these wood planks are, and that tells me that this was probably built around this time. And as he's talking and describing these different methods that people used back in the day, you hear footsteps walk across the floor above him. So he scrambles out. He immediately goes in the house. There's nobody in the house. It's like a 1 or 2 room house. Mm-hmm. And the other guy, he didn't want to go in the house. He was like, "Oh, let's get the hell out of here." So, and this is in the middle of the day. This isn't at night or anything. This is during the day.
Wow.
So, as they're wrapping up and saying, "All right, this happened and we're going to get out of here. We're not into this," kind of freaking us out. You hear the door slam on the house. Boom. And they're like, "Okay, it's time to go. Let's get that."
Wow.
But that's what I love videos when we see, when the people aren't trying to catch anything paranormal, they're just a normal guy down there videoing a birthday party, or in this case, an old house, and they catch something they weren't expecting. A lot of credibility to that, and it's just really cool to watch the people's reaction. So yeah, those 2 really stand out for me. I've watched that cabin in the woods video a number of times and shown that to a number of my friends, going, "Oh, you think I'm an idiot? Look at this. This is kind of cool."
Wow, that's incredible.
Yeah.
Now, so with being on the Travel Channel, is that kind of like your 2 things like intertwining with the acting and the paranormal? Because I mean, you are shooting a TV show.
Yeah, it's funny. I never thought. I always believed I would, someday be in a network meeting with some network executives, and I always thought that would happen. I just didn't think it would be for ghosts, So. But as an actor, and I still do plays, I'm still involved with it. I kind of do them at my leisure when I feel like doing it, or I get the itch. Mm-hmm. I try and be creative, and that's sort of my passion and my love. but as an actor, you're always looking for an interesting role or an interesting play or film or indie film. And I was like, I just kind of wanted to be an interesting guy and have an interesting life, and this is where I ended up.
So would you say at this point in time, you're giving more to the paranormal side of things than the acting side, or are we like 50-50?
I would say I'm giving more to the paranormal stuff, and I have gone years without doing a play, and then suddenly going, God, it's been 7 years since I've been on stage. I gotta put the word out and go, hey, Dan's looking for a play, and I'll get a couple calls and get to jump in and do a show. But the paranormal stuff, forget about the TV stuff. The TV, I do the paranormal stuff, and the TV is, they get the benefit of what I've been doing. I don't, if I wasn't on TV, I'd be doing the exact same thing I'm doing. So,
Gotcha.
Yeah.
So now I could be wrong about this next part, but you could let me know. Now, did you start your own paranormal team?
I did. I wouldn't necessarily call it a team. It's just sort of like-minded people who are on the same page as me. The paranormal world and all the teams that are out there, there's like a gang mentality out there, and the black shirt crowd. Everybody's got a black shirt, when they go on Paranormal Investigation, and I got to give a shout out to my friend Aaron Sage, who's on the show. He wears tiki shirts when he goes on investigation. The groups, I belong to a group, and when I first started here in the city, and it was great, and but there's a lot of egos and a lot of hurt feelings if somebody might be getting a little bit more attention, or so I kind of stay away from the groups now. I go out with groups. Somebody will ask me to come on an investigation with them and maybe show them a few pointers, or they want to get my input. And it just, I don't know, it just wasn't for me. So I have a group of people that I enjoy working with. If I'm going to the merchant's house, I'll put the word out and say, hey man, I got 2 spots. Who's up for it? First person that calls me back is in. And so I got some people that I go to, and but I wouldn't know if I would necessarily call us a team.
Okay, fair enough. Now, if I I know some things, but not others, so I might be out of my wheelhouse here. But what kind of tools are you using besides EVP recorders when you're on these? Is it like, are you doing spirit boxes and things like that, or?
No, I'm not a big fan of the tech stuff.
Okay.
I think a lot of the tech stuff is flawed. You get a lot of false positives, and so I use a recorder. I try and bring in a good vetted psychic medium, and I use a tri-field natural EMF meter and a level head. I think that's the best tool you could bring is yourself, and be open-minded that some strange things that you might not be able to explain might happen. But also on the other end, you have to be open-minded that not everything that you can explain is paranormal. Thunder and lightning was paranormal a lot longer than it's been not paranormal. For centuries, people believed that was some kind of paranormal phenomena that was happening, and we figured it out now. So you got to be careful, and you have to be open-minded on both ends of the spectrum.
Right.
But equipment, when I started out, I used to have to rent a van to bring all the equipment I had to an investigation. I had freaking miles of cable and cameras and DVRs, and we'd bring 10 people. And, now I go, I got a backpack with a couple things, and it's me and one other person, or sometimes it's just me.
Wow. So with that being said about the level head, did you go into a place that somebody told you, this is a super haunted location, and you have successfully debunked that place?
Yeah. Oh yeah, 100%. There are people that have a hypersensitivity to electromagnetic fields. And we know through science, through the work of Dr. Michael Persinger, who's from Toronto, Ontario, I believe. I think he might have passed away, actually. But he did a lot of research on how electromagnetic fields, AC magnetic fields, alternating current, when a human brain is subjected to that, some people who have a hypersensitivity to it can have different types of experiences. He's done this in the lab, and just the way he manipulates the electromagnetic field, somebody sitting in a controlled environment, in a room, a sealed room, will have a ghost experience or a religious experience, or they'll feel like they're an alien abduction experience.
Oh, wow.
And that's just because their brain is being bombarded by these electromagnetic fields.
Wow.
So when you go on an investigation, I'm giving away my age now, but a lot of people used to have alarm clock radios on their dresser or on their nightstand, and those give off a shit ton of electromagnetic fields for whatever reason. So I'm thinking of this one particular investigation where a woman said, my boyfriend won't spend the night here. She had a big, beautiful apartment, and I said, well, what pillow does your boyfriend use? And she pointed, and I put an EMF meter there, and it was just through the roof. And it turns out that the motor room for the elevator in the building was right behind that wall.
Oh,
So
wow.
he was, tons of it. I said, you know what? You want your haunting to stop? Move your bed, or have him sleep on the other side of the bed, and it worked.
Wow, that's incredible. Now, since you do your own investigations, you've been doing this for so long, do you still find yourself keeping up with like the ghost hunters and the ghost adventures and stuff like that, or do you just focus on your own?
Yeah, no, I watch those. I like watching those. I know those guys and a few of those guys, so I like watching them, and it's cool to see where they're going, and I like to see the tech that they're using. They're entertaining. Remember, these shows on TV, it's for entertainment.
Yeah.
They're not doing hard science, and I can't say I wasn't on any of those investigations. I can't say if they're faked, but I can guarantee you some things have been recreated.
Gotcha.
They might not say they're faked, but they're recreated.
Well, the reason I asked this is because I've had Katrina Weidman on the show
from Paranormal State, right?
Yeah, Paranormal State, Paranormal Lockdown, Portals to Hell, all that stuff.
Right.
And she was just phenomenal about opening up and talking to us about it. So I was just curious if you kept up with those shows as well. So what do you think personally for you was your most memorable investigation?
Let's leave the Merchant's House out of this. Most memorable. I guess it was probably my first sort of formal paranormal investigation where I went out with a group. I was the new person, and we caught some stuff at this location in upstate New York. But I also caught somebody, faking stuff that was on the team, and
oh wow,
so I learned a lot on that. Yeah, sure. In the same evening, we caught some pretty good, examples of paranormal phenomena. But I also caught somebody faking. I caught, so it was. I learned a big lesson in that, and I also learned that me being the new guy, it didn't mean that these people I was on the investigation with were any better at paranormal investigations than I was. We're all there's no experts, and it gave me a lot of confidence going, all right, you know what? They just maybe read more books than I did or had more experience on an investigation I did. But here I am, a new guy. I caught something, we caught something on camera. I saw what went on, and so that was a pretty meaningful investigation to me. And I it's one of the investigations that I can remember clearly, and I've been on 1,000 since, and they all kind of blend into one.
Do you have a preference of what kind of evidence that you prefer? Like, what really like psychs you up, like hypes you up? Like, are you like audio, video, photograph, or is just whatever you get, you get?
As far as that stuff, whatever I get is great, and photographs are few and far between, and video, like legit video of an apparition, I've seen tens of thousands of clips, and I would guess maybe 5 of those were legit.
Mm.
Either the others are maybe false positives or somebody wishing that that was a shadow person when it was their own shadow, yeah, I mean, what gets me going? I love working with psychic mediums. I love them, like Kathy Nadell, who hooked us up. She's amazing. She's amazing, and some of the other mediums I've worked with, it just blows my mind. That whole field, mediumship, and I think not bringing a medium on an investigation is just foolish. For as an investigator.
All right, so. Next part of this interview, we're taking a break from paranormal. We're taking a break from acting. This is our lightning round where I ask you a bunch of questions that don't fucking matter. And it's just for people to just sit back and learn something different about you. And generally, we try to keep at least somewhat of the same questions for everybody. So let's hit this lightning round here, and then we'll bring everything back.
Gotcha.
So, first question: do you prefer Chicago or New York style pizza?
New York.
Dinner or dessert?
Dinner.
Chocolate or vanilla?
Chocolate.
Poison or Motley Crue?
Wow. I'm gonna say Poison.
All right. Ozzy Osbourne or Alice Cooper?
Alice.
Going to Alice. All right.
Yeah. Nothing against Ozzy, man, but
of course.
Come on.
Of course. No, I get it.
Yeah.
Do you prefer Friday the 13th Part 1 or Halloween Part 1?
Halloween Part 1.
Let's say you're going through the Bermuda Triangle and you're a superstitious kind of guy. Are you taking a boat or are you taking a plane, and why?
I'll tell you, I went through the Bermuda Triangle in a 50-foot sailboat.
Oh, wow.
And so, yeah, I'm going to say boat.
All right. And why?
I can swim, and but I can't fly. So.
All right. Perfect. What do you consider your favorite movie of all time?
Wow, that's a tough one. Jaws up there, Rocky, and Citizen Kane.
Nice.
Casablanca. I mean, we could go on.
Oh, you and me both. But when you said Jaws, I was like, yeah.
Yeah. Jaws is really two movies. There's the movie before they go out on the Orca. And Spielberg splits them in half. That shot of them coming out of Quint's domain, going through the jaws of the shark and zooming in on the boat. There's two different movies. It's great.
Oh yeah, I love that you don't.
I got goosebumps right now.
You don't even see the shark until halfway through the film, and you're just so scared. It's great. It's great. Yeah. What do you consider your favorite TV show?
Favorite TV show? God, growing up, Happy Days. I remember Happy Days came on at 7:00 on Tuesdays or 8:00 on Tuesdays, and I couldn't wait for it. And I hated that you had to wait a week for the next episode. So, and I love the beginning of the Bionic Man.
All right.
I don't watch a lot of TV now, so.
Nothing beats the old school TV shows. That's why,
Oh, Godfather. How do we forget the Godfather?
Godfather's got to be in the conversation always.
Yeah.
Now, what about favorite cartoon?
I used to love. Was it Doomsday that had Bill the Cat? Cartoon as far as like Bugs Bunny type of stuff. I love Bugs Bunny.
All right, perfect. So that's it for the lightning round questions. And now I'm going to loop this back around because I want to know what your next investigation that you're going on is.
Right now, I don't have any private location investigation set up yet. I'm going to be going upstate and do an outdoor investigation, which I don't usually do, but this guy's getting some pretty cool phenomena, capturing a lot of EVP. So I'm going to go up and hang with him. And then I've got another Merchant's House investigation coming up, I think next week.
Okay, very cool. Now, what about acting? You got anything coming up for your acting career?
No. Everything is. I've been just sort of focusing on Paranormal Caught on camera for the last couple of seasons.
And you said you're coming up on season 9 or 10?
We shot season 8, or no, season 7, and we did a bunch of episodes, and they split them in half and made it into 2 seasons. So while we're shooting I think they're calling it season 9, but for me, it's like season 10.
Gotcha.
I don't know. You know how it is, Robbie, man. It all kind of just. I have a regular day job as well, and yeah, everything just kind of gets piled on, and I talk to people at work, and I'll mention EVP, and they look at me like I'm talking a different language, and I go, yeah, I forgot. It's not what you're into.
I love it. All right. So the last thing I want to do before I get you out of here is I want you to plug any kind of social media or anything like that where people could follow along and see what you got going on, and just, where they could tell you how much they enjoyed this interview.
Oh, man, well, thanks, Robbie. And I'm on Facebook, Dan Sturges, and then I'm really, really bad with social media. I'm on Instagram, and I think my name is D Sturges, I think. And that's the only 2 social media platforms I have. And I have a website, SturgesParanormal.com. You can go to that and I try and update that when I think of it, but I've got a lot of stuff on there and a lot of cool information if somebody wants to check that out.
Do you ever do appearances at paranormal conventions?
Yeah, I just did one. I just did one in Ohio. That is called Parapsychon at the Ohio State Reformatory, which is where they filmed Shawshank Redemption. And we just, it's a huge one that they do every year. And I was there this past May.
Oh, that's really cool. Do you have any more coming up this year?
I might have one. We do lots of stuff at the Merchant's House over Halloween.
Oh, okay.
And, which, where you are, you're upstate, you're welcome to come down, be my guest, and, do an investigation, take a tour, do whatever you want. So
That'd be great.
Pardon me?
That would be great. I would love it.
Yeah, come on down. And so I've got a lot of that coming up, and they do these paranormal tours, and then they have like a special tour with Dan Sturges, the guy that's doing all the ghost stuff. And we'll do that like at the end of the night, and do a nice long like 90-minute tour. I play most of the really good data that I've collected. We play and take questions, and so we got that coming up the last week in October, I believe.
Wow, that's incredible, man. Thank you so much for being here. I'm super into this stuff, so this was really cool. And now I'm going to get back into reading my Historic Haunted America.
Right on, Robbie. And thanks for having me on. I enjoyed talking to you. You're a cool guy, and like I said, stay in touch. And if you ever find yourself down in the city, hit me up, and I'll take you right over there. I got keys to the place, so we can go in and do whatever we want.
Oh, awesome. That would be seriously fantastic. I will take you up on that for sure.
We'll get Kathy to come down. She's amazing in that house. She comes up with stuff that nobody should come up with, and she speaks it. So
wow.
Yeah, anytime.
Is there a way to protect yourself while you're in these places? Because I've done like amateur like investigations at haunted places before, and I've always been told you have to have the intention of like, you can't attach yourself to me. You're not leaving with me. Like, do you do that?
No.
And
just to be clear, every paranormal investigation is an amateur paranormal investigation. There's no pros here. I'm not a professional paranormal investigator. I'm still learning. I can go on an investigation with somebody it's his first investigation, and I can learn something from him. Maybe something to do, maybe something not to do, but they're all amateur investigations. So, yeah.
Fair enough. Well, thank you once more for being here, and this was a blast, man.
All right, thanks, Robbie. It was a pleasure talking to you, and we'll rock on, man.